Hey guys, it's Shen here and welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be something that's been talked about since the introduction of photography, and that question is whether or not to shoot in RAW or JPEG. So before we talk about whether or not we should be shooting in RAW, what exactly is RAW? RAW doesn't actually stand for anything particularly, it just refers to the raw data that comes out of the camera whilst you're shooting. Whereas JPEG, on the other hand, stands for Joint Photography Experts Group, named after the people who created the type of file. Now when we talk about JPEG versus RAW within photography, the main differences between them are that RAW files are unedited and uncompressed, RAW as the name suggests, whereas JPEG files have color profiles added to them and are compressed. This means that RAW photo sizes will be much larger than JPEG photos because the RAW ones are uncompressed versus the JPEG ones which have a compression process applied to it. Now let's talk about why we might use RAW or JPEG files. These raw data files are meant to retain as much data as possible, and they're also meant to be quite flat in color, so all of this information can be added later on in Photoshop or in other post-processing programs. When you import a JPEG file, you can see that the color has already been applied to it. This limits the creativity when you're looking to change exposure or color later on in post-processing, versus a RAW file which has been unedited and is quite flat in colors. Having RAW files would give you a lot more potential and a lot more flexibility when it comes to editing versus a JPEG file which would limit a little bit more of that side of the editing. So the reason you would have a RAW file over a JPEG file is because you'd have more flexibility or more potential for creativity when it comes to post-processing and editing. Whereas with a JPEG file, it's fairly straightforward, straight out of the camera. If you're looking to add basic touch-ups like exposure or color balance, and that would be perfectly fine. The file format you choose will fully depend on what type of photography you're going to be taking. Are you going to be printing huge A1 sized prints of your photos? If that's the case, then RAW files are going to be vital for you to retain that high quality detail. On the other hand, if you're going to be shooting for your social media profiles like your Instagram or Facebook profiles, then a JPEG file would be perfectly fine. If anything, the compression process of a JPEG file would help you a lot more because some of these platforms like Facebook or Instagram have got size limitations when it comes to uploading these photos. For me personally, I'll only use raw data if I'm looking to get my work printed, maybe in publications where the high quality detail is vital. But on the other hand, I do a lot of e-commerce work for online businesses, so they're looking to get the perfect balance between quality and file sizes so their websites don't run too slow. So I'll definitely use JPEG file sizes most of the time. But at the end of the day, I'll always say if you're in doubt, definitely shoot in RAW, because that can always be converted and compressed down into a JPEG file. But if you have a JPEG file and suddenly you find out that you don't have enough detail or something's a little bit pixelated because you're looking to stretch the image into a different proportion size, then that can't be reversed because the detail isn't there. Well, that's it for this video. I hoped it clarified a little bit more about whether to shoot in RAW or JPEG. It completely depends on the type of photography you're going to be taking. If you like this video, then please leave me a thumbs up and leave a comment below whether or not you shoot in RAW or JPEG. And I'll see you in the next video.